All right, here we go. Welcome back. This is the BTonez podcast, here back again, and this is episode 12. And just as I promised you before, this is part 2 of Faith and Finances. With me again, our brother Kean Baxter and Layne Olwin to talk a little bit more about the discussion that we had previously about what we should start to do with our money, how we should start to think about our money. And if you watched the previous episode, hopefully you got a lot of gems. You're going to want to have your paper and your pen out so you can take notes. And again, at the end of the episode, if you have questions, make sure you post them below the video so we can get to them and we can answer them as they come across. Thank you again for joining us. Just to pick up on last conversation, what are some of the things that you, Kean, I'll start with you. What are some of the big points that you held on to from our first discussion?
Yeah, Layne, when you said that you prayed, God answered your prayer the first year, but you didn't realize until 40 years later. Man, that was heavy. Remind us what that prayer was. What the answer was.
Well, it was around money and how to grow money and how easy it's supposed to be. Mm-hmm. It's taken me that long, making millions, losing millions, to figure out that within two weeks, I now could teach myself 40 years ago everything that I know in such a way that it would be useful and sustaining over the 40 years.
Yeah.
And so because I came from a traditional background in terms of, parents, middle-class parents, schooled, you go to school, this is what you do, and this is how you grow. Their approach to money was the way the world worked, not anything I question. Avoid debt, do all of this stuff.
Yeah.
So that went unquestioned for a while. And even when I started questioning it, I didn't get to the questions I now have, which gave me the answers and revealed the truth in terms of the approach, right? Everything that we do has a psychological basis, a philosophical basis.
Right.
We don't generally explore it. We think that's just how it is.
How it is.
That's just how it is. And so it took me that long to unlearn my default settings and learn other things. And other things meaning, if someone is an expert, let's say, at turning $10,000 into 20, they have a mindset, they have a thought process, and they have an approach.
Right.
If I'm not curious about their mindset, their thought process, and their approach, I could live next to them and die poor.
Wow. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But if day one I said, what's your mindset? What's your thought process? What's your approach? Tomorrow I'm mimicking the best person in the world. Right? Or I could go figure it out myself, and 40 years later, get to the guy who lives next door to me.
And that's what happened with you.
That's what happened with me. Wow. And so, you made mistakes, made money, lost money, millions and millions of dollars. But it became obvious, and you're saying, oh, Lord, is this what you've been trying to show me all along?
Wow. Wow.
Let me ask this question, just jumping on the back of that. Do you find that it's an issue trying to change the minds of, let's say, your cohorts and your colleagues rather than the younger generation? I know you mentioned the fact that you have 2 young daughters. Yeah. Are they adhering and absorbing this knowledge more readily than someone who'd say, maybe around your age, you're trying to show them these types of things?
Yeah. What I find is that my now approach is their default. It's the process of thinking that really makes the money, right? Because when we go into a store and we look at shirts, we say we're buying shirts.
Yeah.
My default to them is you cannot just be a consumer. So how did they make money from you? Right? So you're buying it, you're going home, but you're thinking, oh, this shirt manufacturer, they did, they bought the label, they bought this, they put it in a retail store in the mall, not in a strip mall, which you might have driven by. And so all of that they think about with with the view that in the future, they will think about, okay, how do I serve people? How do I give a product? What do I do? But with that business mindset as a part of it, right? Or I tell them they'll be investors. It doesn't matter what you do in life. All your money is going to go into investments, and your work will be your fun thing, which might or might not pay you, but you won't need pay from what you do.
So you got them when they were young, where they didn't have to unlearn. For you, you had to unlearn, and that was that 40-year process.
Yes.
Can you just take us through that 40 years, or just highlight the catalyst? What was the one thing that really was a shift your paradigm?
It's so many little things. When I started thinking that everything I own must pay me for owning it.
Everything that I own must pay me
for owning it. That's essentially a property hack. I knew someone who at 19 in college, he bought his first 2-bedroom apartment and he rented it out and stayed at home with his parents.
Marvelous.
And that blew my mind, right?
Wow.
He bought his second apartment at 22, rented it out, and still lived at home with his parents.
Wow.
When he bought his third apartment and rented that out, he moved in to his first apartment with a roommate. That roommate was paying enough rent that it covered his living for free. And that was so diametrically opposed to everything that I had thought, but that was just his default. But then everybody else I know, in fact, they want to leave home so early that they rent when they can't buy, and then they rent forever because they're not in a position to buy. And when they do buy, they want to buy a dream home that they never move again. If they live in the equivalent of a $400,000 apartment, they're looking to buy an $800,000 home, which is probably outside of their budget or max budget, or they have to partner up. And then when they get it, it's so important, and they're house poor. They're house poor. And then they say, well, I bought this house, but now I'm stuck for life and vacation, and maybe in 10 years I'll catch up. At that point, they often start praying for more money. My point was going to be that they start praying to God for more money. Not that God won't give them money, but it's their process of thinking. It's needing that dream home to be the first home that's caused it. God didn't cause money to run out on you or you to be in that position. If you had taken a different approach, like my friend's approach, you probably would have had 4 apartments before you bought that dream home. That dream home would be free because your 4 apartments would be paying for the dream home plus profits. Right? And so you could be living in an $800,000 house and house poor. Next door to you could be someone who has that as their 5th property. Their 4 apartments are going up 10% per year. Their dream home is going up 10% per year. And they're not paying for it out of their pocket. So all of their income is theirs.
Wow.
So even if you have the same job and the same accoutrement, their financial position is night and day to the person next door. We think we're in the neighborhood, so we must be on par, right? we must be on par.
Struggling while they're chilling.
They're chilling and floating and getting richer. Right? Now, there are things they could do financially with their monthly payments and their money that will make all of that even better. But, let's say they did that, but let's say they also did that with cars, because you can and rent cars out. So let's say there are 4 cars in 4 houses, in 4 apartments before they move into the dream home and your neighbor. So their cars are paying them for their car, their apartments are paying them for their house.
Wow.
Right? And so if you start putting numbers to it, and let's assign the apartments a number, $200,000. So let's say you have 4 of them at $200,000, $800,000. and it's growing 10% for ease of multiplication. Each year, they're growing by $80,000 in the apartments, and the home is growing by $80,000. So when you jump by 160 in equity or in value, but by 80, they jump by 160 each year. 800.
Yeah.
Wow.
Right?
Wow.
So you're not going to ever catch them.
Yeah.
and you're actually in two different games, but you look alike. But we don't know how to make things pay us for owning them.
Is it a matter of turning current perceived liabilities into assets?
Yes.
Because that's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
I was like,
Yeah.
what you're mentioning are things that we buy that potentially do not increase our value or increase our cash flow, but we turn them into that by letting or renting them out or leasing them out to somebody else.
Or doing something else.
Something else.
Right? Because I remember when I figured it out and I wanted a Movado, and I'm like, but I can't pay $1,000 or $1,500 for a Movado. I need to figure a way for a Movado to pay for itself and come to me. And I started trading Movados on eBay, buying and selling watches until I made enough money that paid for my watch. And so I had the watch, and I had it for a while. It eventually broke and needs repair. But once I had it, I conquered the thinking.
Yeah.
And the watch meant nothing at that point. So I never wear a watch anymore. But I figured out the game.
Yeah.
What registers for me because of that is, when I see someone, they're driving, let's say a dream car and a very nice car. For me, out of that, one of the things I learned was your car, for example, shouldn't be more than 1% of my personal wealth, right? So unless you have $3 million or up, you shouldn't even drive a $30,000 car. If it factors into your wealth at all, then your percentages are way off. For me, usually when you get your first job, you get the nicest car you can, and look, I fully understand that there are probably other reasons to have a car besides just the economics of it, right? So I'll allow for that. And if you have to stretch for the position that you're in or the person that you're looking to date or court or whatever, do that. But understand what the game is and how the winners of the game play the game.
Wow.
Right? Yeah. So it's not that you're going to do everything right or every meal is perfect. But if you know what good nutrition is, if you have to have a junk day because you're just on the road, for example, you're not confused that, I was nourished today, right?
Being able to turn things that we would usually just pay and just have our money down the drain for and turning into something that is useful for us is something that we can start analyzing right now. Like, look around your house. I think about the woman who Elijah was sent to, and she was about to die, and she asked the prophet to help her. Yeah. And he said, "Well, what do you want me to do?" He's like, "We have this little bit of oil in the house, and we'll make a meal, and me and my son, it's going to be it." And so he commanded her to go. He's like, "Well, since you have this in your house, this oil, go get all the bottles you can find."
Wow.
And when she went out and found all the bottles she could, she used the one resource that she had, and she multiplied it based on the blessing of the prophet. He blessed what she had already and then multiplied it, and she was able to pay off the debts and thrive in a time where there was a drought. That's the other specific thing I think about this story. It was a period of famine.
Famine.
So she was able to do this in a time where everybody else around them were suffering and struggling, but she was able to thrive.
That's an important point, because when we're connected to the Most High, we could prosper even in the economic.
Oh, absolutely.
Yes. And it kind of ties into the conversation we had the last time about the last corn. If you have the last corn, are you going to eat it or are you going to give it away? You're going to plant it, right? And the multiplication of the bottles is similar to the 400 times. That is default for God.
Right?
So So God is a God of multiplication by default. If we're not multiplying, we're not fully aligned.
If we're not multiplying something that he's already given.
That he's already given. We're out of line. We're out of line. And it might be that the great deceiver pulls us away in terms of, again, worrying about the pennies when the dollars are flowing from the divine.
When I watched Myron Golden, one of his teachings and one of the lessons that he had was the fact that in the beginning, in the garden, Satan, his first deception was to get Adam and Eve to focus on life. If God said,
didn't have.
But they didn't have. God said from every tree freely eat.
Yeah.
He said focus on those words. Every and freely. What does that mean? Does that mean little or a lot? Every and freely has to mean a lot.
A lot. Yeah.
But then Satan came and he's like, did he surely first he challenged what God had already said. But then he said, this one tree right here will make you like him. So they focused on the one instead of the freely and every.
Mercy.
And they passed by all the freely and every to get to that one. And from then on, this was another powerful point that he made. The ground was cursed because of Adam's sake. So the freely and every that was already abundant, he then had to sweat and toil and work for. And that mindset from Adam having to sweat and toil and work is how we consider making any money or monetary gain. The first thing that happens is like, okay, you got to go get $1,000. The immediate mindset is, how can I work to get this $1,000? I have to put in this many hours at work. I probably have to get another job. And if I do this in this amount of months and put in all this time, then I'll be able to get that sum of money. That's not the way we should be thinking about this. It should be more so about thought of how can I practically get that 1,000 with putting the minimal amount of, physical effort and toil and labor. So what you do to do that is ask for expansion of knowledge and awareness upon what is already yours that you can multiply. I find a lot of people who are satisfied with it because that's just like you said, that's the way it's been, that's the way it's going to be.
Right.
And to overcome that thinking alone, I believe, is the first monumental step. You got to think, when there's scriptures that says that Christ said he came that we might have life and have it more abundantly. The word abundant is in there. So people who talk about abundance and overflow and kingdom and stuff like that, these shouldn't be strange in words to set like trigger words.
You're right.
I'm not gaslighting. We're not doing any of that. We're just quoting what is actually in there.
By God's default, you can tell how many seeds are in an apple, but you can't tell how many apples are in the seed. We know that by default, everything that we get from God, if we plant, we're getting hundreds and thousands from it, and some of them for 20, 30 years. Or right out of essentially one effort, right? Now, why is our life any different, or why should it be any different? And it shouldn't, except we don't then know the things or the way to structure ourselves for that kind of for that kind of default setting. And it's one thing to sort of hear it. It's another thing to when you learn it. And then you know that you know that you know. You know, right? Because, I mean, if someone comes up to me and says, no, corn doesn't grow, I wouldn't have an argument. I'd be like, okay.
I want to get you guys' take on this, because this is, like, I know that the concepts and things we're talking about may be revolutionary for some, and hopefully for many, these concepts are sinking in. But let me give you an easy way to start focusing on an area of your life to where multiplication can come the fastest. When I found out what my divine purpose was, where I have my dominion, then I know, and I already have an expectancy that the one who created me with this affinity to do well in this area has the expectation for me to continue to do so and ultimately bring glory to him through that specific area designed for me. Mine is communication facilitation, is what I'm doing right now. Take a look at your life. What are the things that you are good at, that you naturally thrive at doing, like effortlessly, that other people will look at it and consider as like, man, I don't know how you did that. Maybe it's painting, maybe it's singing, maybe it's playing an instrument, maybe it's using your hands, maybe it's building something, maybe it's speaking. there's a whole plethora of skills that the Most High dispersed very liberally. It's like taking salt.
Yes.
He just sprinkled it over every soul he made. This person has this person is that. Now, the purpose of why he liberally dispersed it is so that when we come together, one person has something that the other person doesn't. And when we come together, it's like a beautiful recipe for a fantastic meal. Yeah. And when everybody's finished with that meal, they're satisfied, they've been serviced, and now they can go out and do the same thing within their own groups. Yeah. That is the multiplication we're looking for. So when you think about the area that you're good at and that you naturally thrive at, where your talents are resting, where they're residing, think about how to multiply in that area. Don't try to jump outside your scope. Where the area is that you thrive in, focus on that area, and then bring the wisdom and knowledge of that area in which you thrive at to the audience and to the public. Yeah. And the last thing I'll say, the greatest way to do that is if you tie in scripture with it, because you can always find a scripture aligned in your purpose.
You are such a great facilitator, Brad. I would challenge you to take that a step further.
Okay.
I would challenge you to have the people who might not know how to monetize what they do write in and ask you how to monetize it, because they might not be able to see it, and they might be in an environment that's too narrow for anyone to help them, right? But each and every talent that you mentioned, there is a way to monetize it. Yeah. So because God gave it to you for a reason. Yeah. And it might mean teaming up with 2 people or 6 people or 16 people. I don't know. So I'd say, you offer that as the next step. Okay, here's how you monetize what you have, and here are some ideas. At least that will send you. It's
funny that you use the word monetize. I have a challenge for people on how to monetize their voice. Essentially that's the basis of what it is. Because I think about what is a voice. It's your soul speaking. It's how your soul communicates. Yeah. And the best way and the most exciting way for your soul to communicate is what you're good at.
And that's actually biblical, because the disciples said, they talked about what they saw. That's what the word says. We speak of what we've seen, what our eyes have seen, what our ears have heard, what our hands have touched. So if you're talking about what you know, you're gonna be excited about it, and it's gonna continue to grow. And along with what you're saying, tying in people, most likely, if God is in it, most likely it's going to involve other people. God is about community and connection, and that's where the multiplication comes in, right?
That's a part of it, because Robert Kiyosaki was, I think, the first one I heard. He said investing is a team sport. Yeah. Right. But which is opposite of school, because in school, if you collaborate, they call it cheating. So I'm here with my pile of lemons, and I'm looking at Brad with sugar and you with water, and I'm like, no, we're not keeping up.
It's my sugar. It's my sugar.
These are my lemons. These are my lemons, right? I can't eat them. I won't sell them, and I'm not making lemonade. And we're all starving. And what we need is, one of us to man the stand on Monday, one on Tuesday, one on Wednesday, while the others in the back mixing, and one is cooling and one is serving and making change, or taking cash out. So we go around starving for months and months, and feeling not good about ourselves, because we learn individual effort.
Individualism.
I'm gonna tell you guys another thing that I believe the educational system has ingrained within us from a very, 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 very early age, and that's the fear of failure.
Yes.
Failure is essential.
Yes.
Failure is required.
Yes.
We get our tests and our quizzes and whatever else we're graded on, and when we see that F, our heart drops to the floor.
Yes.
We know the reaction that we're gonna have from our parents. We know the reaction we're gonna have from our friends, and then thinking we're stupid. Yep. We know the teacher's gonna think about it a certain way. We gotta have meetings, parent-teacher conferences. So much comes from the advent of a failure.
Yes.
Except the biggest thing, which is the learning point.
Yes.
Effort and failure. Yeah. So failure is actually nothing to be afraid of. It's encouraged.
Right. We shouldn't, because when you think about anything that you're good at, right? If you're good at basketball, the first time you shoot an air ball, right? You realize, so your brain adjusts, like, okay, so I need 2 more feet. Then you realize, oh, that's only 12 inches. Oh, that's 18 inches. Oh, that's 24. Oh, yeah, that's 2 feet. And then you get it, right? So, but outside of that, because school is on paper, with pens, we don't see that each step that gets you closer.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like, if you get an F, that's really where you are. That's fine. Clearly you don't understand. What is it that we need to cover, or let's cover each of these, and then you give me feedback, and we take you through the steps. So as it relates to money, which is why we're here, we're so afraid of failing, whatever that looks like, that we don't challenge our money beliefs. We don't challenge how we deploy funds, and God forbid you're actually making money. You can't imagine that there's more money than you're seeing that's built into the money that you have. So if I invest $100 and I'm getting 105 at the end of the year, I'm up.
Yeah.
Right? I'm up. You get 100 and you're up $5 per week. Right? And so you're saying, Layne, look at this. And I'm like, hey, I'm up. I'm making money. What are you talking about? You know, Brad. He's telling me 105. That must be risky, right? It's possible. It's possible that yours is more secure than mine. In fact, the higher the returns I've seen from legitimate people investing, the more secure it is. So there are things that we can do with money that's less risky but gives higher yield because of our understanding.
Like you said, it goes back to the paradigm from which you're operating.
From which you're operating, and the knowledge of the person who's deploying it. Different levels of risks based on who's buying it and what they know. Right. So when we ask about a return or an investment, we ask, knowing that we're going to get 2 or 12% back. But we don't understand the different risk levels, and the person who is buying, updating, and getting their money out, their risk is 0 or close to 0. If you know what I want to say, right? Because if I have a $600,000 asset and all my money, what's my real exposure? Not much, right? Because I'm going to deploy this again.
Yeah. Let me ask you this: How did you overcome risk aversion? If you ever were you ever risk averse?
I was pretty darn daring.
Okay.
but yeah, there was some at least failure aversion, right? Especially when you're good at school. You're used to succeeding. You're used to succeeding. Literally, it was through a sales organization that I joined for part-time sales, and I found myself. I was, at least school told me I was very bright. But I couldn't call someone and ask them to make an appointment to make a presentation. Like, I couldn't do it. I'd pick up the phone for hours and I'd put it down. And I started challenging myself.
Was it fear of
rejection?
Fear of rejection,
which is failure.
Yeah. I had a maxim I wanted to share in regards to failure that might help people to look at it. Failure is only more information on how to succeed.
Yes.
Keep that in your mind. Failure is, that's all it is. And then the other thing is, I was like, if I ever don't win and I cannot tell you what I learned, then I indeed lost.
Yes.
Because it's not about winning and losing. It's about either winning or learning. It's one or the other. If you reframe, and I think I probably got that from Kobe Bryant, because like Kobe's whole thing before he passed away, he had that Mamba mentality, and people used to, applaud him for his strategy, his ability on the court, which was Jordan-esque. But that's because he had that mentality. He did not accept failure. He would be the one with a broken right hand shooting free throws with his left hand while other people going out to party, because he's like, let me hurry up and get these failure shots out the way so that I can perfect my left hand J. And now this thing is primed to now ambidextrous.
Yes.
What you want to do?
Yes.
But he was not afraid of the failure. He was not afraid of being on the court or anywhere putting in the work of getting all the failures out of the way behind closed doors. Even that's the best place to get your failures out the way. If you can do them behind closed doors, knock them out so that by the time you leave your house and you're ready to perform and execute, now people are like, well, how'd you do that? It's like, you didn't see all the shots I took that missed.
Yes.
But it gave me all the information I needed on what would not work. Now I have all the information I need on what to succeed, and that's all I'm doing.
My equivalent to that, like, is to always be a student.
Always. Yeah.
Always be a student. So even if someone's clearly insane on the side of the road and yelling out something, I'm listening, and I'll process that as I would process anything else, because like, oh, what that person said actually makes sense, and it's a perspective that I had never seen. So I'm not going to out of hand just reject anybody or any information that crosses my path, because it behooves me and it improves me to get out of it a gem that you might not even get out of what you're saying. Then I'm the richer for it.
I know of certain people who will not hold conversations with others because of the way they express themselves and their beliefs.
Yes.
And so they'll completely shut their ears and their eyes.
Or their politics.
Or their politics.
Or their race. Yeah.
And with such situations like that, that's why in the scriptures, when Christ used to always say, he that hath ears, let him hear. He that hath eyes, let him see. Meaning, if they want to know, let them know. Don't block them. Don't shut your ears and your eyes to information. Have the wherewithal to know that the incredible organ that is in between both of your ears has the amazing capacity to filter what it needs. I can look at a conveyor belt and pick out the gems if I see them coming past. I can listen to somebody talk about anything, whether it's profanity laced or whether they smell like a certain substance that's illegal. It doesn't, and I can peel back and hear the knowledge and what they got to say if I'm looking for it. And I can throw out all the rest. I'm not going to devalue my filtering ability with that. I got 2 ears and 1 mouth. I got 2 eyes and 1 mouth. Meaning I need to observe and listen more than I talk. And the only way your filter gets better is when you practice that. Be quiet, observe, take in information, toss out what you don't need, and move forward the wise.
I love the conveyor belt example, right? Because you know what your luggage looks like. You know what you're looking for. So it doesn't matter what comes down the belt.
You know what's yours.
You pick what's there. And you know, if someone next to you can't get it because they know, look, my luggage is coming, but it's quite big. Can you give me a hand? So we know what we're looking for, right? We know what we're looking for. Like, hey, this is a gem coming down. We're going to make some money on this investment. And we say, oh,
we got it.
Right? On the other stuff that, you know, it works. They work for other people. When you operate in the paradigm that, yes, I can choose and I have agency in the choices I make and the moves I make and the information that I have, you put that together and you're operating in a different world than your neighbor, right? Because if you understand that, oh, there are people out there who buy properties for cash and then they update them and then they refinance them. What else do they do? And, you know, they might do other things in that. Then that opens up at least another avenue than you had before. 3 different avenues, right? Okay, what else is there? And when you look at each area of expertise and specialty and money, you realize that people bring that level of expertise to each area of money specifically, and then everything else that you do. So for some people, when we say, you know, like you want to invest money, they're thinking stock market. No, the stock market is great. It's huge. It's big, but it's like 1/20th the commodities market, for example. And most people don't even think of what the commodities market is, right? But you know, the money you make, you can make in the commodities market and how quickly it's made. It's like the space shuttle to a jet. I'm a foreigner, so I'm also comfortable with markets overseas because I'm from a different country and I've lived in other countries. That you know that when you go there, those markets exist and they almost don't even relate to this market, but you can make as much money or more money elsewhere as you can in the U.S. market.
Man.
I was watching an interview. I'm trying to remember the guy's name to honor him, but they call him the Indian Warren Buffett. And he was talking about investing, and he said he has a great friend in Turkey. So he said to the friend, "I'm coming to visit, and I want you to take me to all the companies that you have in your portfolio." So he went and he looked at one company, and the company's market value on the Turkey Stock Exchange, whatever it's called, was $16 million. The underlying assets, because I think they owned warehouse spaces, was $800 million. $16 million would get you $800 million in assets. Now, they're all the shareholders, so every share wasn't available.
Yeah.
So he said he invested $8 million for 30% of the company. And then 2 years later, the market value in terms of the stock market was worth about $500 million. So not only did the $800 million in value go up because the business kept expanding, that kind of value existed, and it was easy for him to make that kind of money, that kind of return, because he was thinking outside of the U.S. Perspectives.
So how you, exactly, back in perspective, how you look at things. So again, going back to what you said, this is like a paradigm shift for me, that you can actually change liabilities into assets.
Yes.
That's big. That's big.
Yeah. And I think a useful exercise for like investment clubs would be to talk about different ways that they can turn $500 into $1,000 or 5,000 into 10,000, right? There's a market, and there are many people out there who sell different courses and talk about how they invest in different investment strategies. But if we had lemon, sugar, and water, shouldn't we talk about, can we do a lemonade stand,
together,
right? Can we go into a local supermarket and say, fresh lemonade, and bottle it from the kids and put the kids' faces on it? How far should we go with it?
Right.
With our lemonade, I happen to have a lemon farm. That's what I inherited. Right. He has a sugar supply, so he knows how to get it, and you have spring water on your property. So it's spring water lemonade, and we put it together. But we can build a $10 selling retail business. We can build $100 because we now have 10 kids selling. Okay, we could build $50,000 selling it to one local place, or we can say within this 50-mile radius, we're going to blanket the best lemonade in the U.S. And maybe some point someone will approach us and bottle us and sell us to Coca-Cola for $100 million. Right? It's still lemon, it's still sugar, right? And the people who are ahead of us in the process are in the supermarkets now. Right?
Yeah.
Lemon, sugar, and water.
Yeah.
Right? So what's your perspective, and what are you looking at? And what ingredient do you have that you need to think about to monetize?
When you're overcoming the individualist thinking, and you start to think, okay, what we can actually go further together, there's going to be inherent risk in that.
There is going to be risk, but I think because we don't perceive the default risks that we live with, we weigh zero against actual when it's not true, because the truth is, with just your water, you're gonna fail.
You're gonna fail,
right? So it's not that you're $100 million over here by yourself, and if you partner with us, you might come to 30. It's that you're failing with you have no lemonade, right? You only one ingredient. when you come together with us, we might have $5, $5,000, 500,000, or 50 million. But right when we come together, but if you perceive your risk by yourself as what it is, then it's an easier decision, and you know, or at least it will balance out the lie that we tell ourselves that we are currently risk-free, right? We think the position that we're in now is risk-free, and anything else is risky, but we don't understand the risk.
The biggest risk is thinking that a traditional mindset still works, present across any generation, any grade in time.
Yes.
What was passed down 30, 40, 50 years ago from people who lived in a certain era still has value in this present age when everything constantly changes. Right. Another thing that I saw as far as risk mitigation to be possibly looked at is this. I love the movie 300, and I always take this reference. If I have a shield that covers me from shoulder to thigh and I'm walking through a barrage of arrows, there's going to be a risk that I can get hit because everything is focused on me.
Yes.
My shield is taking the brunt of everything. Whereas if I get two other partners with me with the same size shield, they're going to get hit too, and I'm going to get less struck. And we have a better chance of moving through together as a unit rather than just one at a time. And the ability of those arrows now, they have to focus on three instead of one. So now the risks are better mitigated and better absorbed for all three. Yeah. So now we can bounce. We can bounce back to get to our destination quicker rather than this me just pushing through with my shield. Now I got two other people with me, and stuff is not even sticking to my shield, it's glancing off like left and right. I love that because every time I see that movie, I see that, and he made that example so plain. It's like we operate as one single impenetrable unit, as a phalanx. If there's one weakness, then the phalanx shatters. So if I know I'm aligned with strong business partners who are aligned in mentality and in goal to achieve the same thing, and integrity also, then now we're bonded. And I don't have to worry about the weakness because I know the men that I'm going into war with, we're on the same page. No man is an island. We got to group up. We got to push through.
Everybody dies if one of us fails. So self-preservation alone guarantees that we're working together.
Ain't no weak links. There's accountability. There's always accountability. What are you doing this week? What have you done? Okay. This is what I've done. And even if a man falls behind because life circumstances happen. Because what we do know is that disruption always follows intention. When we have the intention of accomplishing something big, the first thing that shows up is opposition to the accomplishment of that thing. So if we are moving it and we expect it, and when one of ours starts facing opposition, now we can collectively say, oh, we're picking them up. Let's hold them up together and let's continue to move through. When that happens, man, I think about it in this respect, and I know I've mentioned this before. When they were building the Tower of Babel, God himself had to come down and shut them down. Because he's like, they going to get up here.
They're going to do it.
They all communicate, they're all in one accord, they all want to get up here, they going to do it. I need to confound their language so they cannot communicate. Listen, this conversation is extremely enlightening. Running up until I live it. And I want to get some closing thoughts from both of you. Kean, what has been like a profound impact or a statement that has impressed you highly today that you would want other people to make sure that they did not miss?
Going back to the quote that you shared with me when we first met, I believe it was, here we take risks.
We are risk takers and mistake makers.
Yes. Risk takers and mistake makers.
Right there.
That is something that I have to adopt and let it sink in until I get over that fear of rejection, fear of failure. Because the only way to guarantee that you fail is if you never try. You miss every shot you don't take.
The way to fortify yourself against that fear of failure is immediately knowing daily, on a daily basis, reminding yourself of who you are, who you came from. You were made in an image of an immaculate, all-powerful, all-knowing, omniscient presence who put a piece of himself in you. There is no failure in your life. All it is more information that you need to get where you need to go. Because you're going to fulfill your purpose. There is no other Kean Baxter walking on the planet. There is no other Layne Olwin walking on the planet. And there's doggone sure ain't no other Bradley Tramel walking on the planet. So whatever we are here to specifically fulfill, there's no competition. There's nobody who can step into my lane. I'm going to do what I'm here to do because the Most High doesn't fail. And he wouldn't have created me if he knew I was going to fail.
A key part to what you just said, Brad, and I agree with. If you define success as something learned, you can't fail.
Yeah.
Right. So if you say, I need to make a glass and I'm prepared to make 20 attempts and learn 20 things about making a glass, you're succeeding 20 times. Still haven't made the glass yet, right? But because you've redefined what success is. And so we when we define success as being the millionaire, on the way there, we feel like we're a failure, right? But if success is $1 more today than I had yesterday, then I'm succeeding. I'm succeeding every day. And by the time I get here, I know a million ways to succeed.
Wow.
Right?
Wow.
And so that kind of shifting in the thinking is key. The default setting when people hear investments often is looking to Wall Street. And there is a way, and many ways, in fact, to make money on Wall Street. And so if people are interested, they should start looking at learning technical analysis, which is essentially the movement of markets and indicators, what that looks like. And then there's fundamental analysis, which is, like I mentioned before, where someone went in and valued the company versus the company's assets, and the gap was 16 million to 800 million, right? And so opportunities like those exist, but are you skilled in finding them, right?
Yeah.
So they could exist, but if you don't know what to look for, then there's another opportunity of the Lord providing blessings that you can accept because you don't have the right cup for the blessing that's there.
Wow.
Please feel free to leave comments, suggestions, questions, anything in the chat section of this video that we definitely want to review. I will get all questions to our counterparts here, and we're going to make sure we're going to answer them so that everybody gets the information that they're looking for. I'm hoping that you're leaving this session being a little bit more enlightened about your finances, a little bit more brave in regards to risks that you're going to take, and that you have a whole new mindset regarding failure and success. Because here on the BTonez podcast, if you don't get nothing else, you're going to get a good word. So I want to definitely thank my man Layne for joining me.
Yes.
My man Kean, once again, you know how we do.
Yes.
And you shall definitely hear more and see more from this channel. Please like and subscribe. And to the next time we meet, may Yah bless and keep you.
Like and
Thank you.
subscribe.